The only thing that we're interested in is putting money in your wallet. If you want to bet the fights, if you want to have a little bit of action, you are in the right place. With my partner, Ian Parker, I am Brett Okamoto.
We're ready to rock between our parlays, our props, our straight picks. It's time to make money. Let's go.
That's right. It's another UFC Best Bets on this fine week, in May 2023. You're looking at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada, which will play host to another UFC Fight Night card this weekend. Mackenzie Dern taking on Angela Hill in a sort of thrown together main event. This fight was actually supposed to take place last week. Now it's a 5-rounder here in Las Vegas, and we are here to talk about it from a gambling perspective. As always, hello everybody, I am Brett Okamoto, and that is Ian Parker, who will be giving us all the gambling advice after he wraps how we did last week on Big ABC UFC Fight Night in Charlotte. How did we do last week on our picks, Mr. Parker?
You know, we started off a little bit slow. I'm still a little thrown off by the Cody Stamen decision. Not going to lie there. We missed out on the Morano, Means, and the Brown McGee, but we finished strong with Smith Walker starting round 2 and Jalton Almeida by submission, and we hit the parlay. I'm still really not satisfied with these results. Brett, you know me, I take this personally. I want to win every single week and have a sweep. This was not it, but I am happy we finally got that parlay back on track. So let's look to make that 2 in a row this week.
It feels good. It feels good to hit the parlay. After some, it's like we've been hitting putts right at the hole, and they've just been rimming in and out a lot with the parlays this year. So it was nice to see it hit for the plus 123. And of course, we'll be looking at going with a clean sweep this week at UFC Fight Night. Let's take a look at the main card that you can find on ESPN Plus. Again, it's coming to you from Las Vegas, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. On Plus, it's Mackenzie Dern and Angela Hill in a ranked strawweight bout. Edmund Shabazian taking on Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, Emily Ducote, Lupi Godinez, Andre Filio, Joaquin Buckley, Diego Vieira, Michael Johnson. We'll be running through those quickly, as always, on our breakdowns and our picks here on UFC Best Bets. And let's start with that main event. I think it's a pretty interesting one from a gambling perspective because you have Mackenzie Dern at minus 170. She has lost 2 of her last 3, and she has done so as a not an insignificant favorite, Ian. I mean, this is someone who, from a gambling perspective, has left you a little bit short here. Angela Hill, she's always right there. She's always very competitive. Her record is not what you would want it to see, but it always kind of feels like there's value on Angela Hill because she's such a competitor. Matchup-wise, what do we think of these 2 strawweights and Angela Hill coming in at plus money here?
You know what? I think due to maybe level of competition recently between the 2, that's why you're seeing Mackenzie Dern as the favorite here. Otherwise, Angela Hill, I think, may be that competitor, that litmus test in the division. To your point, the record doesn't, I think, speak to how good she actually is. There's a few fights she lost by split decision that a lot of people thought she won. And I think this is a matchup where she knows what she has to do. There's 2 blueprints. We saw Mackenzie Dern's last 3 opponents. Strikers with either good takedown defense or at least good sub defense. For Mackenzie Dern, when she can't get the fight to the floor and literally can't get the sub, she loses. We saw one against Hannah Cifers, but that was a long time ago. You know, her last fight against Yan Xinan, same thing. Got the fight to the floor, couldn't get it done, did no damage, and Yan Xinan got the win. Same thing that happened with Marina Rodriguez. Coincidentally, we took Tisha Torres, we took Rodriguez, and we took Yan Xinan against Mackenzie Dern, and I think that trend is going to play here. I think the 5-rounder also being changed favors Angela Hill. I think she has better cardio. I think her striking is way better. On top of that, listen, there's an elephant in the room. I'm just going to say, without getting into further detail, there's been a lot of personal stuff in Mackenzie Dern's life between getting a divorce, then, you know, switching gyms, switching managers. That's a lot. And then switching from a 3-round to a 5-rounder, all of that makes a difference here. For Mackenzie Dern, I think she just still doesn't get who she is. She mentioned in an interview that she's just learning now how to try to steal rounds and play into the judges. You've been fighting for quite some time. The fact you didn't know that after your 2nd or 3rd fight is a little concerning. Angela Hill knows that, and Angela Hill is going to be able to keep this fight standing. And I think if that's the case, Angela Hill may surprise people as she's done in the past.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. And like you say, you know, I mean, we don't like to focus necessarily on personal issues, but this is a gambling show, and circumstances play into value in these betting lines. Another deal with Dern, and I wonder just like over the course of her career, Ian, as you have tried to, and like you said, we've kind of been on the other side of her when it comes to the gambling side. Have you seen improvements in her? What have you made in just the adjustments of her game and her ability to get the fight to where she likes to go, to the ground? Do you feel like we've now seen her. There's a large sample size, and what has been the value of her as we've progressed through her career, and has she gotten much better? Have you seen?
I think where she has gotten better is her striking has been more clean. In the past, she would kind of throw a little bit reckless, throw power to try to close the distance and get a takedown. But we saw against Tisha Torres, she was way more precise. Her striking was clean. In the clinch, she wasn't trying to force things, and she paced herself a lot better. But then against Yan Xiaonan, when she wasn't able to get the sub and when she was standing, she just kind of looked a little bit lost. So the thing with Mackenzie Dern, I guess inconsistency is the way to really describe her career so far, just in the way she fights, in the way she presents herself. We've seen her very confident. I don't see that this time around. And when you're talking about Angela Hill, she's always confident. You know she's going to bring the fight. You know she's going to always be prepared. And I think, the blueprint really is there. If she keeps the fight standing, as much better as Dern has gotten her striking, Hill is still the way better striker there.
Well, as our regular viewers know, we sort of hit this prop of the night bet as it comes, and here it's coming right away in the main event. Your Parker prop of the night. What is it here on this main event?
I'm going to go with Angela Hill here by decision. I like her as the underdog, and I do think here, based on our last 8 fights, win or lose, it has gone to a decision. Dern is very tough to put away. Look, if Angela Hill somehow gets a submission and one of you guys bet that, I will shout you out happily on Twitter. That would be amazing. But I think she knows what to do here. This is a very important win for Angela Hill to get, back into the top 10, beat a number 8 Mackenzie Dern, keep the fight standing, strike, don't force it, defend those takedowns. And you know what? At plus 200, I like that play.
Yeah, you know what? And like I say, I don't really kind of throw in my own analysis here, but I'm expecting, if this is going to be your prop of the night, I also expect it to probably be a best bet. We'll see at the end if this makes the Parker's best bets, but circumstantially, I agree with everything you said. Angela Hill just seems to be in a very good place. She's always very prepared. I agree that the 5 rounds probably favors her a little bit more than Mackenzie Dern. And when I hear things about, I'm learning to get through my personal life, I've took time away from my coach, I'm focusing on me, sometimes that can be great. From a gambling perspective, especially talking about a favorite, I tend to think that that's not what I want to hear from a betting favorite. So I think circumstances 100% agree with your pick here, Angela Hill by decision. Let's go through the rest of this main card. Middleweight fight, a fun middleweight fight between Edmund Shabazian and Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. Hernandez coming in a little bit of a bigger favorite than I anticipated personally. What do you think of this co-main event?
I agree with you. I think it's a little high there. It's a little wide. I do see him winning this fight potentially. We've seen once you put Edmund Shabazian on his back and drag him into deep waters, he kind of gives up. But that last fight, we saw a different Edmund Shabazian. He had heart. He weathered the early storm, came back. But I like over 1.5 rounds here. When Shabazian has lost, it's been towards the middle of the end of the second round into the third. And for Fluffy, he's gone 2 or 3 rounds when he's gotten the submission.
All right, let's move on to Dakota and Godinez. This is coming up on short notice. It's actually a catchweight fight. What do you got here?
I'm going to make this one quick. I love Loopy. She's a favorite of ours on this show. She's better everywhere. If you put pressure on Dakota, as we saw in that last fight, she gets lost. I like Loopy in this one.
You do love yourself some Loopy Godinez. I feel like we've been on her a lot over the course of this show. Let's move on to 2 welterweights in big need of a win here, Andre Fialho and Joaquin Buckley.
For me, Buckley coming into this division, he said he didn't want to get knocked anymore by the bigger guys, but he's fighting someone with good knockout power. However, Fialho is coming off a couple of losses himself. I think the first round is going to be a feel-out period. I think this fight's going to go deeper than people expect. I'm going over 1.5 here. I think Buckley is going to be the more hesitant fighter. He didn't want to get knocked out at middleweight. He definitely doesn't want to get knocked out at welterweight.
And I'll tell you what, this is a fun main card. It starts off here with a lightweight fight, Diego Ferreira versus Michael Johnson. You got Michael Johnson again, back-to-back going to the well with Michael Johnson as an underdog.
Give me the menace. First off, I do like Diego Ferreira as a fighter, but he's been out for almost 2 to 3 years, coming off 3 losses in a row. If he cannot get the fight to the ground and get on top, I don't see where he wins. I think Johnson is the better striker. He's faster. I think physically he's stronger. And people forget that Johnson is a very good wrestler. Great takedown defense. So if he could keep this fight standing, I think his volume and speed is going to definitely get past the BJJ over Ferreira. And we're getting that at plus money. I'm a little surprised with that one.
Yeah, man, that's another one that I do like. I like this value on Michael Johnson. You got Diego Ferreira, who's in a little bit of a gut check situation. He's lost 3 in a row. Granted, that's been to a very, very good competition, but he didn't fight in 2022. He's battled some injuries. Yeah, I like the circumstances again surrounding Michael Johnson much better as an underdog here against the favored Diego Ferreira. Okay, so that's the main card. Let's take a look at the prelims, which you can also find on ESPN Plus. Run us through your prelim picks for Saturday.
I'm going to go with Slava Claus here. You know, if this fight stays on the feet, which it should, he's finally not getting someone who's a grappler. I think he's the better striker. He gets the win. I went back and forth in this one, but I like Carolina here. I think she's got the better competition experience. You know, Vanessa Demopoulos has won a couple of splits. I just think if this fight stays on the feet, Carolina wins. If it goes to the ground, even off her back, she's active. I'm going with her. Give me Gilbert Urbina. Up until this morning, he was an underdog. We've seen Orion Kosi very good in the first round. Gas and gas. Urbina's really good at standing up once he gets taken down. Good cardio. As much as I love me some Ilir Latifi, you know, I think John Anik calls him the backyard shed. Great nickname. I'm going with Nascimento here. I don't think he's going to get a sub. Latifi's got no neck, but I think that fight goes a little bit longer. His striking's better. We'll go there. Chase Hooper coming up the lightweight against Nick Fiore. I'm going over 1.5 rounds. Hooper, pretty durable. I know in that last fight against Garcia, he got rocked. Prior to that, it takes a lot to put him out. Fiore has not, outside of before his UFC wins, this one has been a decision. I think this one goes into round 3. Give me Natalie Silva inside the distance, one of the best prospects we've seen in a long time. And last but not least, I'm going with Gorimbo here, you know, against AJ Fletcher. He looked pretty good for the first round, got caught in the guillotine. I don't see Sato being able to do that to him. So those are going to be the picks right there.
I'll tell you what, other than the Natalia Silva fight, those are some very, very competitive fights, which means I'm very curious to see how you were going to put together your parlay after hitting it last week. A lot of competitive fights, but that also means potentially some bigger payouts here if we do hit this thing. Where are we going with the parlay this week?
Well, I went pretty chalky with Natalia Silva. I don't see how she loses here, and we'll get a little bit of a bump in the odds by taking her there. Rodrigo Nascimento, I think his size and speed should do it, and I think Latifi's kind of 1 foot out the door. And then Dern Hill over 2.5 rounds. We're going to get plus 128. It's almost the same as last week, but one less fight we have to win.
All right, there we go. 3-teamer for a plus 128, and now on to the best bets. What do we got here on Saturday?
Right, I think you're going to like this one this week. Let's start off with main event. I am going Angela Hill here to win it outright. I think with all the things we talked about with Mackenzie Dern going on in her life, this being going from 3 to 5 rounds, switching gyms, relationship stuff, you know, and Angela Hill having good takedown defense of 77%, being the better striker, I like her at plus odds. Shabazian Hernandez over 1.5. You're right, I do love me some Loopy when it comes to the betting stuff. She's been pretty kind to us. I think this matchup favors her. I think the only reason why it's only minus 150 is short notice. Fialho Buckley. In the beginning, we're going to sweat this because Fialho's going to come out. He's going to swing for the fences. Buckley's elusive. I think he's going to be a little hesitant in the beginning. We're going over 1.5 there. We're going another underdog in Michael Johnson. I just think the layoff of Diego and not winning in his last 3 fights, I understand high-level competition, but Johnson's fought pretty high-level competition too. Better hands, stay on the feet. Let's go with the menace. Last but not least, Chase Hooper Fiore. I'm hoping it's a nice, boring grappling fight that takes us into the 3rd round because we're going over 1.5 right there.
Nice, boring grappling fight for your Saturday afternoon, says Ian Parker. Yeah, let's go ahead and grab one of those. Hey, if we got money on it, sure, be as boring as can be. And I like it, man. You're right. I do like your best bets this week because it shows that, hey, I mean, if Mackenzie Dern goes out there and submits Angela Hill, we can all see that happening, right? If Diego Ferreira has a little bit too much for Michael Johnson, we can see that happening as well. But given the value that you were getting as these guys in underdogs in these situations, personally, I completely agree with your best bets this week. So one last thing to do, and that is the long shot parlay for this weekend. We haven't hit it yet. We've been close a few times here in 2023. What do we got for UFC Fight Night?
Brett, I think this one might be it. I'm going Andre Fialho here to upset Joaquin Buckley in the new division. You know, again, this is someone who can pressure Buckley, who's experienced. He's got big hands, powerful. I think if he touches Buckley, Buckley's going to be in a little bit of trouble. Gilbert Urbina, I think, even though he hasn't fought since the Ultimate Fighter finale, Orion Kosi, just no gas tank. You know exactly what you're getting out of him. To me, that's a coin flip at best. Chase Hooper, you know what? I'm not the one. I don't think I've ever bet on him particularly, but this fight, the experience, I think he knows where he's better, and his opponent's not really threatening with a ton of power in the stand-up. So I think if it's a grapple match, Hooper gets the win. And last but not least, I'm going with Gorimbo over Sato, and we're getting pretty good odds in that long shot. Not crazier, but it's only 4 fights, and the odds outside of the Fialho one are pretty close.
It's a good-looking long shot parlay, man. We only got to hit 4 of them. And like I said, a lot of these fights are very, very competitive. So with the parlay, we played it a little more conservative, but hoping to get that payout, hit 2 in a row, get some momentum on the Ian Parker parlay. And with the long shot, we take our swing at a few of those competitive fights, and we only need to hit 4 for a 22-1 payout. Very well done, Mr. Parker. I enjoyed the analysis. I enjoyed the picks. And I'm going to enjoy this main card, man. This main event is very, very big for Angela Hill. Mackenzie Dern, she loses. She's lost 3 of 4. So high stakes at 115 pounds in that main event. It goes down in Las Vegas, UFC Fight Night on ESPN+. Until then, enjoy the fights, and we will see you 2 weeks from now because of Rare Off Week next week for the UFC. Have a good one.